Vanakkam. Good evening, everyone. From MGM Healthcare, would like to welcome you all for a session on parenting tips for child safety. In an earlier session, one of my friends and colleagues covered a few aspects. Today, we'll be covering a little more on why children are vulnerable and what are the risks they can get into, what dangers are there around them, and how we can prevent these accidents from happening and how to safeguard our children from these, and also a few points on first aid. Now, why are children so vulnerable and they're so much at risk? So, very small babies cannot really communicate. So, எதனா வேணும்னா கூட பசியோ ஈரமா இருக்கோ என்ன வேணும்னாலும் குழந்தை அழுதுதான் காமிக்கும். ஸோ நம்மளா புரிஞ்சுக்கிறோம் குழந்தைக்கு பசிக்குது இல்லை நாப்பி ஈரமா இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறது. ஸோ சிமிலர்லி லிட்டில் ஓல்டர் சில்ட்ரன் அவங்க தவழ ஆரம்பிச்ச அப்புறமா ஸோ இங்கே அங்கே எல்லாத்தையும் அவங்க எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணுவாங்க. ஸோ வென் தே கெட் இன் டு திஸ் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரேஷன் அண்ட் தேர் வெரி வெரி கியூரியஸ் பீயிங்ஸ், ஸோ தே கேன் ஹாவ் ஆக்சிடென்ட்ஸ் ஹேப்பனிங் அட் ஹோம் from various sources. So how are our homes safe enough for them? So this is what we are going to look at. That is also called the rendu vayasukku kitta paambu pudikira vayasunu solvanga. That's because they don't know of any danger. They are not aware that certain things can pose a risk to their lives even. A little later, once they start going to school, they have friends, they have a lot of dare. Okay, so imagine a friend saying, can you do this? Can you climb this pole or a tree? Okay, and a small chap would readily be willing to do that. He is not going to wonder, is this safe? If I fall, what will happen? And so on. So they get under this peer pressure. Growing up a little more, the teens pose another set of challenges. So they're more prone to take risks and adventures. Okay, so now how are we going to? What are the dangers that children can go through? Okay, so very small babies, I said. So when kai koranda stage la vandu, the most important risk to them is aspiration of feeds, or what we call choking in common terms. So பொறையேறிக்கும். ஸோ பால் கொடுக்கும் போது அதனால தான் we tell mothers படுத்துட்டு கொடுக்காதீங்க, உட்காந்துட்டு கொடுங்க. படுத்துட்டு கொடுக்கும் போது sometimes what happens, the mother can fall asleep and a heavy breast laden with milk can even smother the child. Okay, so this is not to frighten you, but just to make you understand why we keep emphasizing to mothers not to lie down and feed the child. Some of you may have heard of the term SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Okay, a few decades back, I would say, it was getting evident that small babies were dying in the cots. Okay, or the mothers or caregivers were finding them dead in the cots. So this was also called crib death. And finally, after a detailed analysis, they found that babies were getting strangulated. It's always advisable to keep the bed free of clutter. So it's okay to have soft toys and so on for the babies to play with. But while they're sleeping, at least the crib area, try to put the toys away. Let it be a clean, tucked-in mattress, no space between the bed and no loose bed clothes around, so that the baby doesn't accidentally pull the sheets onto their faces, and that will end up smothering them. So they can, once they grow up a little more and they start crawling, they can fall from cots. So we would advise parents to have side railings for cots, or they can even fall. நம்ம வீட்டுங்கள தூளில போட்டு தூங்க வைக்கிறது வழக்கம். So beyond a certain age, they can even crawl out of that and fall down. So have some carpet or some soft substance underneath to cushion their fall. So be aware that these things can happen right under our very noses. Some of us playfully shake our children or throw them up in the air. So this can actually cause intracranial bleed in small children, because there is a small space between the brain and their skull, because the brain has not developed fully. So when we shake them, it's like so the brain goes hits against the skull, and the small blood vessels between these two layers can get torn, and it can cause intracranial bleeds. Moving on to the next vulnerable age group, that is the toddler age group. They're crawling around everywhere, they get into everything. So one common things that we have seen is TV stands. So the child crawls up to the TV stand, tries to hold on. If it has wheels, or if it has a TV which is not fixed firmly, the TV will fall on the baby and it causes grievous injuries. So this happens quite frequently. We see quite a few children coming in with these problems every year. Uh, they can also take small objects, put it into their nose, ears. As long as it doesn't get into their air passages and block them, they're all right. If it stays in their nose or ears, you just have to go to an ENT doctor and have them removed. But if it slips into their air passage and blocks, it can choke them, and that is again a risk, a problem of risk to their lives. So certain objects, though they may end up swallowing, can also be a problem, like button batteries. Button batteries have some alkaline chemicals in them. So once they go to the stomach, they can dissolve, and those chemicals which leak out can erode and cause some chemical reaction. It can cause perforation of the intestinal tract. So don't give babe children small toys with small parts in them, or toys which have these button batteries, which can be easily accessible. Or even if they break, if they spill on and these children are curious, they can end up eating these. And certain other things are balloons. Balloons are always shiny, attractive, and we all love balloons. So no children's birthday party is complete without balloons. But small children tend to bite into things. No, they have a stage in their development when anything you give them, they're going to take it to their mouth and try to taste it and feel it. That's part of the normal development. But what happens? The balloon, when it bursts, it fragments piece. So one piece can go and get lodged in their throat, and that can block their air passage. I want to tell you a small incident which happened maybe say 2 to 3 decades back. When we were all growing up, you would have seen these balloons at the end of a bamboo stick. There'll be two halves of a balloon with some sand or some small stones in them, which makes a sound. It was the cheapest form of rattle. So there was once, there used to be these sellers outside baby hospital in Egmore. So all parents, and they're very cheap, right? And all babies are on seeing that, they want one because it's bright and it makes some nice tinkling noise, and the parents would get it. So they found that there were so many babies coming with these burst balloons and these balloon pits getting stuck in their throat. And finally, they realized that this was the cause, and they kind of banned this object. Okay, I don't think, I've not seen it anywhere around after that. So we as a collective community, as parents, we should ensure the safety of our children and even go to such steps. So, but strangely, the objects keep changing. There are now a new fad where there are magnetic objects, right? There are magnet parts, or even some kind of small magnets that are given to children to play with. So when children ingest these magnets, they go to different parts of the intestines, and they keep rubbing against each other because they're attracted, right? And that can cause perforation or holes in the intestine, and it can lead to a very, very serious condition. So please don't give small parts to children. And one way to avoid all this is to just keep the child constantly under your supervision. So medicines and anything else that babies and small children can take on their own. So toddlers can accidentally drink medicines which have been left outside. Okay, be it can be just a paracetamol syrup or a medicine or a tablet meant for an adult. So what we advise parents is never to compare medicines as chocolate or toffees, because they're not aware. They see one line, they will put it into their mouth. We've had quite a few incidents of this happening. We even had a doctor's child who came in just drowsy, and we were thinking of right from brain fever to various other causes why this child could be like this. Then when we asked about the possibility of the child having taken some medicine, she did an extensive search of the house and found that two of her father's sleeping dose medicines were missing. So then it kind of narrowed down. We did a stomach wash, and by the next morning, the child was all right. So it can happen to anyone at any time. So never give a child a tablet and ask them to hand it to an adult, or don't leave tablets lying around. So apart from, because what is one tablet for an adult is a life-threatening dose for a small child. Okay, it can be 10 times the normal dose for that child. And also leave all these medicines should come in child-proof caps, bottle caps. So because some medicines are tasty, they add flavors to enhance the taste so that children will take them. For instance, paracetamol, some brands of paracetamol are so tasty with a strawberry flavor and mango flavor. So the child, left at the bedside or anywhere within reach of the child can drink the whole bottle. Even we've had one or two children coming in like that. So and then we have to, if we know the medicine, we can sometimes we have antidotes available, but not always are we fortunate. Once a small child was again brought in drowsy, and he had all the symptoms of a brain fever. It then turned out that he'd taken 2 or 3 of his mother's fits medicines, and that had made him drowsy. Okay, then all these history, the parents don't even think about it. So only when we keep asking them repeatedly, they even realize that these things can happen. Sometimes we caregivers keep other substances in medicine bottles or medicine. Recently, we had one parent who had who thought she had kept this Kabasura Kudineer, which is being given for COVID, and instead it was the grandmother had given something else, which had neem oil to the child. So neem oil can cause fits, and it can cause a change in the child's sensorium or conscious state, and it can also require an ICU admission. Camphor, பூஜைக்கு கற்பூரம் வச்சிருப்பீங்க. ஸோ குழந்தை வந்து தெரியாம அதை நல்ல சாக்லேட் மாதிரி இருக்கு வெள்ளையான்றதுனால, or sugar, they mistake it for sugar cubes. So the வாயில எடுத்து போட்டுட்டா camphor can precipitate fits again in small children. Okay, this is so always keep medicines out of reach of children and keep them in child-proof containers. Kitchen is another very, very dangerous area. A lot of times, for the child is attracted to all that we are doing, and so the child comes into the kitchen. And wants to play with things there. Utensils are very, very favorite toys for children. Most they like the noise that they make. or mixies and gadgets. They're very fascinated by the kitchen. But kitchens can also be a hazardous area. So always keep sharps and other kind of harmful substances away from the child's reach. Even glassware better be kept out of reach so that they don't drop, break, and cause themselves injury. They can take small seeds and other things and put them in their mouth. Last week we had one child who pulled the mother along with her, and the mother lost balance, and she was holding a pan of hot water which fell on the baby and caused some scald injury. So as far as possible, keep the children out of the kitchen. But if it's not avoidable, don't let them sit on the countertop. Keep them away from the gas stove. Don't let them reach for the knobs. And if they're anywhere there, make sure that the handles of the pans are turned away from the car, away from the child, or that can protrude out of which the child can accidentally pull down, because they cannot see what is above the countertop, right? So they will just reach for whatever is there and try to pull it down. So, and we can have hot coffee or water or any other even liquids splashing on them, which can cause a lot of scalds and injuries. So this is all the dangers that are there in a home. Certain other sources of risks to children are chemicals. So there are parents who sometimes buy other cleaning liquids or acid and stuff and store them in soft drink bottles. Especially in summer, children come running in, they see this bottle, they don't realize what is there in it, and they end up drinking it. So we have had lot of and these cleaning liquids have a very, very high pH, or both acids and alkalis. They're all caustic, and they can cause a lot of injury to the food pipe, and when healing, they cause strictures. So please be careful not to store other things in soft bottle containers. Moving on to the school age, when children are more adventurous, they start playing outdoors. Playground is one place where we have to be careful, educate them about playing safely. Like when they climb high things, it's better to always have an adult supervise them. Even a swing can be a risk. You'll often find children running in front or behind the swing and getting knocked down. So but it's always advisable that an adult supervises the children during their playtime. Swimming pools. Swimming pools by legislation have to be enclosed, and a lot of swimming pools here, I know that they ask one family member or caregiver to supervise their own child. Just that itself will prevent the act of accidental drowning or other mishaps that can happen. We don't have the concept of having lifeguards yet. So it's always advisable to have an eye on your child when they are in the swimming pool. Children can also be a victim of road traffic accidents. They can either be hit by a car or be a passenger of a car. So when they're traveling by car, slowly I think parents are more aware and starting to use car seats, at least for toddlers. And the older children, make them wear seat belts compulsorily. That will prevent the nature of injuries. And if they're in a pedestrian also, teach them road safety rules. If they go cycling, let them wear protective gear like helmets, and or if they're doing any kind of sporting activities, make sure that they are well protected with whatever protective gear is required for that sport, the sport that they are playing. Being Diwali time, I just want to talk to you a little bit about bursting crackers safely. So all of you know, but remember to supervise your children. Don't let them go playing bursting crackers on their own. Always have one adult to supervise. Take turns even if you're busy with your friends and family. Always teach them to maintain a safe distance while bursting crackers. Burst one at a time, not a whole lot together. Invariably, children will not see who's behind them. They'll go knocking into each other with a live sparkler. Sparklers can also be they're not really safe. Okay, they look very innocent, but remember that the sparklers are burning at 2000 degrees, and even after they go off, they can stay hot for a very long time. So discard all these sparklers, have a bit of sand or a bucket of sand, and teach children to drop them into that. Also remember to have a bucket of water uh, beside to douse any flames that may erupt. Wear cotton clothing and maintain a protective footwear, so that our feet are not exposed to any sparks that fly away. And use only safe, legal ones, use fresh ones. And if something doesn't go off, don't go meddling with it. The next age group which are also at risk are adolescents and teenagers. Okay, so teens are more adventurous. There are three issues which I want to talk to you about. One is they start driving or riding, so make sure that they wear helmets if they're using a two-wheeler. Make sure they wear seat belts if they're driving a car, and have a very, very strict no cell phone use while they're driving cars or two-wheelers, because that's a biggest source of distraction. Even when they're talking, it's very important. It's very difficult to multitask, and even a split second attention drawn away from the road can result in a danger either to themselves or to somebody else. And they tend to have a lot of friends traveling together or going for a movie or so, but insist that the car should have only the required number of passengers, no extra passengers. All this is to prevent any injuries to themselves. They also get into drug abuse under peer pressure, or just that they want to experiment. So be very aware of your child, their nature, be sensitive to any change in their behavior, and that will also help you pick up when they go through depression, suicidal tendencies. All these can come up during their teens. So keep a channel of communication open with them, have clear rules with them, and also at the same time give them some amount of freedom. Internet safety is another aspect, because sometimes, though they are within the confines of our home, they are exploring the world through the internet, and there are a lot of unsafe sites. So give them some privacy, but also discuss the dangers of these sites with them, and make sure that they know their freedom and how much freedom you can allow them. Just tell you a little bit about some first aid tips, what you can do to in case you have some problems at home. In case you have a cut injury like a laceration, so remember to apply firm pressure and it's bleeding. Just apply firm pressure with your thumb, or if it's a wider area, with the heel of your hand. Use a clean dressing, whatever it is, and then get over to the nearest hospital or doctor. Or a firecracker injury or a scald, put the area, if it's a small area, put it under running water for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, and then you can put a clean, moist cloth on it, and then bring the child to the doctor. What if they have ingested something like I told you, button batteries or caustic? Don't try to give them anything that you think will neutralize. That will not help. So what is allowed is plain water or milk if they're able to drink. You can also try giving honey, especially in case of button batteries, because honey is supposed to coat these batteries and prevent the disintegration that can happen inside the stomach. For burns, don't try to put all these coffee, sugar, and any kind of ointments and sticky pastes on it. Just apply with a clean, moist cloth and bring the child to the doctor. To sum up, always keep your child under constant supervision and have all these chemicals and medicines out of reach of the children. Be aware of the dangers that are there at home and outside. Make clear rules. Keep talking to your adolescent. I would like to say that when they're very small, you're physically close and you're always going to keep them, say, within a feet of you. So when they start playing in the playground, you keep them within eyeball distance, right? Just பார்க்கிற தூரம் வரைக்கும் அவங்கள நம்ம கண்காணிப்பிலேயே வச்சிருக்கணும். So once they become adolescents, though you may not be able to see them, always keep talking to them, know where they are. Okay, so they have to tell you when they're going out, when they're coming in, so that you can keep track of their whereabouts. That's one way we can safeguard them. So adult supervision is a must, even for older children. Thank you. We would like to, if you have any questions, you can type them, and we'll be happy to answer them for you.